Alright, so this is the NUC 12 Serpent Canyon, a really cool mini PC that's got all the power you need for gaming, but it's also got a pretty hefty price tag. And if you're not trying to break the bank, there are some alternatives out there that can actually do better at a lower price. So let's take a look at a few options that you might want to consider instead. Alright, so when it comes to PCs, they don't have to be huge. They can fit in small spaces. But the thing is, most of the time when we think of smaller PCs, we're usually thinking about something that's going to cut corners in terms of performance. That old saying of size doesn't matter. Well, it does in the PC world, like having a smaller case means less room for airflow and cooling. It also means limited space for components, especially when you're dealing with full-sized ones. It just makes it more difficult to build something powerful that's also compact, but it's definitely not impossible. And it is this idea of packing a ton of power into a tiny package that makes something like the Serpent Canyon so interesting. But yeah, that starting price of $769, it puts it out of reach for a lot of people. Now I have another video where I talk about why it's worth it. It's worth spending the money on something like this. If you're interested, check it out after this one, but in this video we're looking at some cheaper alternatives. So first things first, let's talk specs. The Serpent Canyon has an i7-12700F. That's for performance cores and 8 efficiency cores, which means multi-core performance is great. But when it comes to single-core performance, it gets beaten out by some budget CPUs. For example, the i5-13400F, which is a newer CPU with the same amount of performance cores but more cache and a higher clock speed. And if we look at benchmarks, we can see that this CPU holds its own against the i7 in some games. So that's a good start. Now the next thing we need to talk about is the GPU, because the Serpent Canyon uses Intel's integrated graphics, which means there's no dedicated GPU. So we are talking about performance that is going to vary based on the games that you are playing and how you set up your system. For example, I tested Cyberpunk and Red Dead Redemption 2 and both ran okay, but at what cost? In terms of FPS, we are looking at around 40-50 frames per second for medium settings, and even lower than that if you are bumping things up to high or ultra. Now, there are ways to get better performance, like adding a dedicated GPU, but that kind of defeats the purpose of this video since we're trying to keep costs down. And then there's the storage, which is another area where the Serpent Canyon could use some improvement. The base model comes with a 512GB SSD, which isn't a lot. And if you want more, you'll have to do some DIY. Luckily, there are a couple of M.2 slots, and you can always add an external SSD if you need to. But it would have been nice to see at least 1 terabyte included for the price. RAM is fine, 16 gigs is plenty, and the Wi-Fi is fast. Alright, so let's talk about some alternatives, and the first one is this guy, the HP Omen 25 liters. It's not as compact as the Serpent Canyon, but it's still small enough to fit on a desk or even under a table. Plus it comes with an RTX 3060 Ti, which is a dedicated GPU, and that is a huge upgrade from the integrated graphics in the Serpent Canyon. You can actually get some really good performance with the 360 Ti. With the Core i7, it beats out the integrated GPU in most games. But the thing is, it depends on what games you're playing. Some games work better with a dedicated GPU while others perform worse than expected. But overall, you're going to see improvements across the board, and that's the main reason why the Omen 25 liters is a good choice for gamers. It also has an SSD, which is nice, but it only comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and that can be a bit of a problem because Windows 11 requires at least 8 gigabytes of RAM, but if you are running multiple apps or even just multitasking, you are going to need more, so you might want to consider upgrading the RAM if you go with this option. Another thing to consider is the size of the power supply. It comes with a 550-watt power supply, which is more than enough for this system. But if you plan on upgrading the GPU in the future, you might want to get something bigger. The Omen 25 liters starts at 849, which is more than the Serpent Canyon, but it is also a better value if you are a gamer. Next up, we have the Asus ROG Flow X13. It's a gaming laptop, and yes, laptops are typically more expensive, but this one has a lot of the same features as the Serpent Canyon. It's compact, it's portable, it's got a powerful CPU, and it's got a dedicated GPU. Unlike the Serpent Canyon, the X13 has a touch screen which is nice, but it also has a smaller screen, 13 inches versus 14. It also comes with fewer ports and you won't be able to upgrade the RAM or storage, but if you're willing to make those sacrifices, the X13 is a good alternative. It comes with an AMD Ryzen 9 6900HS, a very capable CPU that's similar to the i7-12700F in terms of performance. And it also comes with an RTX 3050 Ti, which is a lower-end GPU than the 3060 Ti in the Omen 25 liters. But the thing is, it's still a dedicated GPU. So once again, you're going to get better performance than what you get with the Serpent Canyon. And like I said before, it depends on the game. Some games will perform worse on the 3050 Ti while other games will perform better. The X13 also has an SSD, but it's only 512 gigabytes. Just like the Serpent Canyon, the laptop starts at $1,299, which is a lot more than the other two options. But if you're someone who values portability over everything else, then this is probably the best choice for you. Alright, now the last alternative that I want to talk about is this guy, the Lenovo Legion 5i Pro. It's not as compact as the Serpent Canyon, but it's still relatively small and it comes with a more powerful GPU. The 5i Pro comes with an RTX 3070, which is a mid-range GPU that offers better performance than the 3060 Ti and the 3050 Ti. It also has a larger screen and more ports compared to the X13, and unlike the Omen 25 liters, it comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM. In terms of storage, the 5i Pro has an SSD and a hard drive, so if you need more storage, you're covered, but the downside is that it's heavier and thicker than the other options. It also comes with a slightly older CPU compared to the Serpent Canyon. We're talking about an i7-12700F versus an i7-13700F. And in terms of benchmarks, the 13700F does offer some improvements, but it's not a huge difference. The Legion 5i Pro starts at $1,399, which is more than the Serpent Canyon. But once again, it's a better value if you're a gamer because it has a more powerful GPU. So in the end, it really depends on what you're looking for in a PC. If you want the most compact option, then the Serpent Canyon is a good choice. But if you want better performance, then you might want to consider one of the other options. The Omen 25 liters is a good choice if you want a dedicated GPU, while the X13 is a good choice if you want a laptop, and the 5i Pro is a good choice if you want a larger screen and more storage. No matter which option you choose, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.